Welcome back to a bonus episode of Benny's Custom Works, proudly supported by Valvoline and Sparesbox. Don't forget BCW5 on checkout. Today, we're changing the steering wheel in the Century, but the reason we're changing the steering wheel is because this one has cruise control. Now, you may wonder why such a crazy, expensive vehicle doesn't have cruise control. I can't answer that question. Toyota Japan probably can. The 1999 version didn't have cruise control factory. It was an accessory or an option. It did come in a few years later, pretty much factory fitted. This being a 2003 model steering wheel, which will directly fit, we're going to put it on. I've actually already done some testing and I do have a bodily installed cruise control lever. However, this is all OEM stuff. It's super nice, and also my steering wheel is pretty worn out anyway. So this half timber, half leather one is going to be a nice addition to the interior. The way I started working out how to do this cruise control upgrade was actually look at other Toyotas of the era. I know the JZS 171 Crown is really common for a cruise control upgrade. So the first thing I did was jump online and find a couple of how-tos on how they've done it in the Crown. Being that they're a very similar era and they've both got electric throttle, albeit that the Crown is a kind of a cable electric hybrid, much like the IS200, it is a fairly simple upgrade. Where it differs between the JZS 171 Crown and the Century, however, is the brake pedal switch is already fitted to the Century, being a 4-wire type. Now, there's basically a double redundancy system in the brake pedal switch, so the first thing I checked out was that, and obviously seeing that it already had the 4-pin switch installed, started to look at the other options and the other functions of how the JZS 171 was done. So then basically I found a cruise control switch that would plug into the clock spring of the car, and luckily enough it's a very common switch between Camry, all sorts of Australian delivered Toyotas, as well as things like early Soras, which ironically have very few that come with cruise control. However, I was given a switch which fitted a Sora and also fitted the Century column, so plugged that in, went for a road test, and there's literally nothing else to do. So it's actually a mega simple install, but getting to find all that information, it was a bit of a challenge to get there. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of that sort of recorder or anything because this is something I've been mucking around with for a few months. But basically, having now found all that information, I wanted to put it into one video and share it, primarily for the Century people, but also it's probably just something interesting to have a look at. But today's video, we're basically going to be throwing this on and confirming that it does work. We're going to go for a bit of a road test and check out the functions of the steering wheel, and it's going to be sweet. First thing we'll do today, obviously we're going to be dealing with SRS or airbag systems, so going to have to disconnect the battery, and then I like to also sit on the brake pedal for about 30 seconds. If there's any residual current in capacitors in the systems, the brake lights will actually drain those capacitors so that it's completely safe to remove the airbag, because the airbag system is active always in a vehicle, so if you've got your ignition off and you're in an accident, the airbags will still deploy. Let's get into it. When you're removing the airbag out of your Century, and most Toyotas actually, it's super simple. You just remove these two side covers, and then it's just a T30 Torx bit on each side. You undo both of those Torx bits and the whole airbag unit will come off. Make sure when you do remove your airbag that you're not leaving it hanging, because there will be multiple wires connected to the back of the bag, and if you damage those wires or the clock spring, none of your SRS system will work anymore, and you will also end up with an airbag light on your dash. I know I have mentioned it before, removing steering wheels, to make sure you leave the nut on the column until you've broken the taper loose, but there's a heap of new people to the channel, so I figured I'd mention it again. But yeah, just again to reinforce that, do not try and pull the steering wheel off of the column unless you've got the nut on there, because I've seen firsthand people break their noses doing it, and it's not pretty, and half the time it results in filling your interior full of blood, so avoid that. It's not my problem. We've got our steering wheel all in and mounted. All of our wiring is plugged in. It's all 100% factory Toyota stuff now, as opposed to what I kind of spliced together to get the system working. It's also got all original brackets to mount the switch to the steering wheel. It's in a much nicer position now. I kind of had it just cobbled in there with some cable ties and stuff, so it did work for testing purposes, but having it all there factory is heaps nicer. And as a bonus, we've now got the factory infill panels that cover around the side of the switch, whereas I just had that open. Like I said, for testing purposes it was really good, but for actually having a really nice finished polished street car, I much prefer to have all of the factory parts in there. set at 50, give it a bit of cruise up. It's all working happily too. It's accelerating uphill, no feet. So strange that they didn't put cruise control in these things standard, hey? The amount of stuff that they come with. Killer potholes. How good's this road? Just sped up to 100, it's all working really good. Much the same as when I originally tested it. It's all just working as it should, but this is the correct century stuff now, so good to see that it is still working in the correct manner. Well, that's us pretty much done for the day. I hope you guys have enjoyed this bonus little extra episode. Cruise control works flawlessly, and I'm super happy to actually have that functioning. One actually interesting thing to note though with a lot of JDM cars is the cruise control actually stops at 108 kilometers an hour. So not ideal for Australia, but going through towns and stuff, it's super handy. Being that there's so many mobile cameras these days, you can quickly just latch onto the speed that you're supposed to be doing in that area, and it cruises along happily. So we'll keep cruising for another day. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.